If the shoe was on the other and Palestinians were occupying Israel, creating settlements in Israel, attacking Israelis and forcing them off their land or killing them to make settlements, the Israeli government would be screaming about how they're being eradicated and how they're being terrorized. But when it's the Israeli government doing it, they say nothing about it. They're never labeled terrorist or anything like that, even though the Israeli government is arming and funding terrorism in the West Bank, giving settlers guns, telling them to kill people, having the IDF protect them. That is terrorism.
Ahmed has paid a high price for unprecedented settlement expansion in the occupied West Bank. He was forcibly displaced in the middle of the night after settlers attacked him and his family in the village of Deir Dibwan.
We couldn't take nothing.
Again, uh, that is terrorism, what they did. Attacked his family in the middle of the night. Um, this idea that like the Israeli government is not a terrorist government is a big lie.
They took everything from us, except ourselves and our sheeps, and in hardly way. And we left because they have guns, they have big cars, they followed us, they shot on us, and they throw rocks on us, and we don't have anything to defend ourselves.
If they actually had weapons and were to try to defend themselves, the Israeli government would be screaming about how Hamas has Israeli settlers in the West Bank, blah, blah, blah.
The new expansion plan would see Palestinian water shares reduced, Bedouin displaced from the Jordan Valley, and construction prohibited in Area C. Kamal and the residents of Deir Dibwan were affected by all three measures.
We had 72,000 dunams confiscated for the benefit of the settlements, which Israel claims they are official, despite us having ownership papers, and the lands were not sold. The remaining lands were taken by force for the benefit of pastoral outposts, leaving us with only 3,700 square meters.
2024 will mark the peak year for Palestinian land confiscation since the Oslo Accords of back in 1993, with Israeli authorities set to confiscate 23.7 square kilometers in the Jordan Valley and designate it as state land.
The action
So they're going to the West Bank and stealing land from people, claiming it's state land, and because the Israeli government are full of insane people, they think they can just pass a law in Israel and it takes effect somewhere else that isn't Israeli land. Um, if Hamas were doing this to Israelis, the Israeli government would be screaming and pitching a fit about how Israelis are being genocided. But because it's the Israeli government doing it, they think they have the divine right.
of stripping the Palestinian Authority of its powers in Area C, taking full control of these areas and all the resources of the Palestinian people, including water and land, and even taking over 2,425 archaeological sites and naming them biblical archaeological sites, are considered part of the Judaization process, considering
Wow, so they're taking control of, they're stealing archaeological sites and renaming them so that they can then point out and be like, oh look, this archaeological site has a Judaic name. That means this is Israeli land. Like, that's truly insane.
152 places as biblical archaeological sites is part of the Judaization process, not just annexation. The issue is not only about annexation.
This is also a form of genocide here, what they're doing. They're colonizing the West Bank, they're displacing people, they're stealing their resources. Where are these people supposed to go um, when you displace so many people? Like, they don't have any homes if you steal them. It, the Israeli government is committing a genocide in the West Bank.
Since he became finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich has proved a record number of settlement units, amounting to more than 24,000. Smotrich said it's his life work, and I quote here, to thwart any possibility of establishing a Palestinian state. He made it clear that to do so, he is willing to continue violating international law by annexing Palestinian land.
Yeah, and this goes to prove that the Israeli government does not care about international law, even though they continually claim they always follow international law. Stealing is not following international law, and how outspoken so many of the right-wing Israelis in the government are about denying Palestinians any kind of right that is racism on their part. I mean, if anybody else says they don't want an Israeli state, especially if they're Palestinian, they're considered racist. They're considered to be anti-Semitic in that they want to exterminate all the Jews. But when right-wing Israelis say it about Palestinians, it's not considered racism or anything of the sort. And that's because they were able to convince so many people that like the Israeli government are the good guys.